Alumni Relations Cell, BITS Pilani Goa campus. Hello and welcome everyone. It's great to see you all here. I'm Shaurya and I'll be co-hosting the talk along with Sneha. In spite of being in different time zones, we thank our esteemed speakers for being here with us today. Before we get started, some points to make a note of. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the question box on your control panel. The speakers will try to address them when they're not presenting. And we have also allotted some time for questions at the end of today's talk. Please note that the Q&A option is different from the chat option. In the chat, the speakers might not be able to answer a particular question. We have also put up a form in case you need further guidance about the application process for MS and PhD. With that, let's start today's event. Over to you, Sneha.
Thank you, Shaurya. So, hello guys. Today we are here to present before you another edition of our BITS2 series talk. And this time we are back with some of our most accomplished alumni who have done their masters and PhD from renowned universities and are here with us today to give each of us a short glimpse of their journey, to share stories and personal insights which may help many of us to achieve their PhD or MS dreams. A PhD is one of the most difficult degrees in the academic world. It requires passion and sincere dedication to truly achieve something great, to unlock the power of knowledge. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Abhiroop Bhattacharjee, who received his BA degree in Electrical Engineering from BITS Pilani in 2020. He joined the Intelligent Computing Lab at Yale University in 2020 and is currently pursuing a PhD degree at Yale. His current research interests include exploring in-memory computation techniques for neuromorphic circuits and adversarial robustness in hardware-mapped neural networks. Passing the virtual mic over to you, Abhiroop.
So, hello all. Am I audible?
Yes, Abhiroop, you're audible.
So, I am Abhiroop and I have done my BE from Pilani campus in 2020, as Sneha has already mentioned. And that was the time when the pandemic just started. So initially I had to remotely do the fall semester in Yale. And then I came here, I think on January. Yeah. So I came here on January this year and I have started to visit my lab in person and do my research work. So currently my research is in neuromorphic systems, in designing efficient hardware for AI, efficient as well as robust. And my advisor is also a BITSian. She is Professor Priyadarshini Panda, and she is also from BITS Pilani campus. Yeah, and that's the interesting part. Yeah. And yeah, you can go ahead and ask me any questions you want regarding SOPs, regarding yeah, there are certain pointers such as regarding how to mail profs or what aspects are important for your application. So you can go ahead and ask those questions and I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, gladly. So we'll all get to it eventually. Yeah, so thank you, Abhiroop, for taking us through your journey to one of the most prestigious universities in the world. Sure, you're having a great time.
Yeah, it's a good experience out here currently. Since the yeah.
So better CGPA is enough motivation for us to put in our heart and soul into learning. It is later that we realize how much more there is to learning than just a grade. The degree we receive becomes incentive enough to delve deeper and explore more. Our next speaker is Mr. Ishan Kaul. He received his BE degree in Mechanical Engineering from BITS Pilani Goa in 2014. He then worked as a software engineer building CAD software products until 2017, after which he enrolled in Georgia Tech to pursue a master's degree in computer science. He is currently working as a software development engineer at Amazon. We look forward to drawing upon your experience as you made your way through to where you are today. What are the various interesting things you've been working on? And more importantly, How has BITS helped you be who you are today? Over to you, Ishan.
Hey everyone. Shaurya, can you just give me the participant access so that I can share my screen?
Yeah, great.
Hey everyone. Hope everyone is doing good and staying safe in this pandemic. I would just first like to thank the Alumni Relations Cell to organizing this wonderful session and feel honored to talk about my journey from BITS to Georgia Tech. And I hope I helped some students and participants along the way of this talk. So I'll just give a brief intro about my journey and what I have done till now. So I graduated from BITS Goa campus in 2014 and did my undergrad in mechanical engineering. Then I worked at Geometric Limited, which is now been acquired by Excel Technologies as a software developers. Actually, I started working there as a semester intern as a part of my PS2, which got converted to a full-time job. So I worked there on some CAD products in the mechanical domain from 2014 to 2017. While working there, I realized that my interests more lie in the software engineering field than mechanical. And this work experience gave me a better opportunity to understand what I wanted to do next. So I applied for master's program in various universities over the US and luckily received an admit from Georgia Tech, which was one of my dream universities, where I did my MS specializing in machine learning from 2017 to 2019. As a part of my MS program, I did my summer intern in Anthem, which is an insurance company over here. And then I did my fall intern at Amazon as a part of the Alexa Devices organizations, which got converted into a full-time opportunity. And now I'm working there at the Alexa Devices organizations in California as a software developer engineer. My day-to-day work generally revolves around building software applications for internal tools and doing large-scale data analysis for the host of Alexa metrics that different devices emit. And it's been fun working at a higher scale, at the scale at which Amazon works, and been learning a lot through that journey. For just 1 second. Yeah, 1 second. So a couple of things that I believe that worked for me. I would say I was not exactly sure what I wanted to do after graduation because I was trying different things. Like when I was applying for MS, I was also trying to see if I can take CAT and figure out what my next steps are. But luckily for all of us, I think BITS provides a very strong starting point. We have an amazing alumni network, a strong peer group, and a rigorous undergraduate programs. So it helps us to make bold choices along the way. As I said, I was lucky to land a software engineering job, which was in the mechanical domain, and that made me interested in pivoting my careers to CS, and it seemed like MS would be the next step. And apart from the alumni network, I got good support from my family and friends in building a good profile and navigating the entire process. So I would suggest everybody to take advantage of all the resources that you have on your hand and then reach out. Don't hesitate to reach out to anybody for your help. So with that, I guess I wish everybody good luck and hope that this talk helps you, and please feel free to ask any questions in this talk and reach out to me at my socials. Thanks.
Thank you, Ishan, for sharing your valuable insights. It was truly rewarding to hear about your path to success. So moving ahead, we have our next speaker, Mr. Arnav Deshpande, who received his BE degree in chemical engineering from BITS Goa in 2017. Currently, he is a PhD candidate at Davidson School of Chemical Engineering, Purdue University, where he is working on metabolic engineering and bacterial strain development. We would love to know about your journey, sir. All ears to you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Arnav, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for the kind introduction. I just made a small presentation for today, and I'd like to just share my journey through it. So, yeah, it's great. So, this is basically a graphical depiction of my journey. So, I joined BITS Goa in 2013, and I initially joined actually with hoping to get a degree in biological sciences, but then got bumped up into chemical engineering. So initially, I had no idea about chemical engineering or anything engineering at first. So my first year was just basically, I think we already have like all these courses common for everyone. So I was doing that. It was pretty rocky. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was difficult adjusting. But then later, when my core classes started, I started like actually liking chemical engineering. And one reason was because I was doing well in the core courses. So although I had no idea whether I wanted to get a job later or do grad school or anything, I just focused on what I could do at the moment, which I think helped me a lot, which was just do well in my courses because that was in my hand at that moment. So in like BITS was super fun. I think I made the most amazing friends over there, and I don't think I'll make as friends as good anywhere else. I played football on central lawns, played a lot of FIFA, had a lot of fun. Also studied hard before the exams and got a good grade. And I actually did not do any internships other than PS1 and PS2, but I did this laboratory project for 2 semesters, which resulted in like a conference publication, which now that I think of it doesn't have too much value, but as an undergrad, I think it's something that you can put in your applications. So I think certainly what I think is like a lot of people just choose SOPs, LOPs, and I think there was one more, TOPs, just to like get a good grade because everyone gets A. But I think if you just put a little more effort into those and make it into something tangible, like a good report or a good LOR, I think it'll be really helpful. So after that, in my last semester, I went to Hindustan Unilever Limited in Bangalore for my PS2. And I think it was a really good research experience. And I got a really nice mentor. And there, I was actually exposed to like mesoscale simulation, which again, I had no idea what it was. But then one thing that I learned throughout my undergrad, PhD, and internship was like with the undergraduate education in BITS, I think we have a very strong base to like switch fields. And like, as even Ishan said, he went from mechanical engineering to computer science. So I think BITS gives you a really strong foundation to like change fields. So when I joined, so after all the application process, LORs and all the whole procedure, I moved from Goa to Bangalore to then West Lafayette, which is Purdue University, in 2017, right after undergrad. So then that was another big change because in BITS, I don't think chemical engineering has any like focus on the biological engineering aspects. So here I got introduced to the biological side of chemical engineering, biochemical engineering, and then the professor here offered me like PhD position in his group in biological, like chemical and biological engineering. So I accepted. And the way the process works here is that you join Purdue, the chemistry department, and then for the first semester, you don't have any research group, and you work in, or you talk with several different professors, and they give you presentations, you can attend their meetings and other things, and then you can actually like explore all the research that's happening and then actually choose. So I think that was very beneficial. So that's an overview of my journey. So I'm just gonna go to the next slide. So this sometimes happens with WebEx. I can't switch. Okay. So this is just something that I took off the Purdue's career website. And these are some really good questions. I think all the participants, I would like them to answer themselves and just think about them on why they want to go to do a MS or PhD. Is it for like you want to learn more about the field, or is it just you want to get a better job, or do you have some other reason? Because one thing I can tell you about PhD is like it's an endurance race. You have to like struggle for 5 years to get it, but it's also very rewarding and gives you the academic experience. Whereas I think MS is shorter, gives you an exposure, and you also have the choice to continue to do a PhD. But if you don't think that you want to go all the way, you can also get a job. And I think if you speak in a financial sense, it might be more better because you can do MS in 2 years and then start earning money. Whereas in the PhD, you have like 5 years where you earn not as much money. So I think just before choosing between going for a job and doing graduate school, if people can themselves answer some of these questions, I think it'll be helpful for them. So a little more on applications and other things. So this is my experience. So from 2013 to 2015, which was like first year to the start of the third year, I was not doing any like extracurricular things. I was just part of the Abhiroop, which is teaching mess workers, English and maths. So I had a very poor first year. I was like not doing well in courses. I also didn't attend many classes. And I think I had like a CGPA of something around 7 after the first year. And I also was not sure about what I wanted to do. So after that, I just decided after my first year to just do well in classes that I was enrolled in. So I did pretty good in most of the classes. I think I got my CGPA from 7 to, I think, close to 9 in the end when I was applying. And so in 2016, I decided that like there were only 4 or 5 companies coming to BITS for chemical engineering, and I did not know too much about like coding and other things. So I decided that it might be good to apply to graduate school. And one other thing was like I had almost all A's in my core classes in engineering, so that was another factor. So I decided to apply for graduate school and also decided not to sit for placements. And I think the summer before applying, so I submitted all applications in December for joining in the next, I think, August. So the summer before I joined, I gave the TOEFL exam and GRE and got, I think, just about 320. And as to the importance of these 2 factors, I think they're just filters. So no one's going to, as long as you have something above 320, I think, or even 315, I think no one's gonna care too much. So that's just like a filter. And I think, so my advisor at Purdue is also the head of the selection committee. So I know some insider things about selection of graduate students. So one thing I think that is very important is academics. So for me, the CGPA, and it's especially hard to go directly from undergrad to PhD without MS. So for that, you need either a good CGPA or a good class rank. So I had like a class rank 2, which I think was my only thing that helped me very much. So I did not have internship before application, nor did I have that conference publication before application. So the main factor for me was just good class rank and good LORs. So for SOPs and LORs, please try to be specific. Don't try to like have some generic write-ups, and make sure that the people who are giving you LORs are like know you so that they can write some examples or something. So I think that's a bonus. And for publications or conferences, I think it's a bonus, but not necessary. So no one expects you to have like a really good publication in undergrad, but if you have one, that's a big bonus, I would say. And the other factor that I know is that the trust. So when people select people for graduate school, one thing they want is them to pass through the whole graduate school successfully. So what I've been told here is that if people from your college have been into that graduate program and successfully completed it, the professors know the name of the university, like that people from this college are competent. So I think one thing you could look into is where your seniors are in other universities. So before, like I think 2015, no one from BITS Goa did a PhD in chemical engineering at Purdue. But then one person from BITS Goa started in 2015. And then in my year in 2017, two more people got into the PhD program. I think if there are seniors in some PhD program, I think there's more chance that you get into it. And after this, I joined Hindustan Unilever and did my research there for a semester, and that sort of helped me even more to decide that I wanted to go to grad school. And one thing that I want to let people know is it's okay if you don't have everything figured out, because everyone is under this pressure that everyone knows what they want to do and stuff. So I did not know, and I think I'm still doing okay. So yeah.
Yeah, so thank you, Arnav, for making us aware of what lies ahead in store for us. It was really insightful and really great to see, from your lens and how it all figured out for you later in the end.
Yeah.
So with that, let us start the panel discussion segment of it.
Yeah.
So the panel discussion is basically going to be all of you can pitch in your ideas on specific topics. We've heard most of it from Arnav, Ishan, and Abhiroop. It will be great if you guys could, discuss and give us a very wholesome experience out of it. It'd be really wonderful. So our first topic for discussion today is the reason behind choosing a PhD over an MS or vice versa. I mean, what are the things you take into consideration while making that decision? We've already heard Arnav's side. It would be great if Abhiroop could start, and Ishan and Arnav, you guys could pitch in whenever needed.
So, from my personal experience, I have always wanted to be in the academic milieu. So, in that sense, what I wanted was to have a PhD or get admitted to a PhD program. And so, during my journey in BITS, I tried to secure internships and do projects in college. I had an internship in Germany. I had two internships in Germany, one for the thesis and one during the third year's summer, beginning of the third year. The end of the third year, after the end of the third year. So these experiences tried to could give me exposure to research, which is pretty much needed to secure a PhD admit just after your undergrad, in addition to having a 9+ CG as Arnav has mentioned. And so these are some important factors which shows the admission committee that yes, you are motivated towards research, because you have just freshly graduated. So you must convince them that yes, you are motivated towards research. So if you have some outcome from these internships or projects in the form of papers, even if under review at that moment. In my case, when I sent my application, my papers were either just to be sent for scrutiny or were under review. So even if it's so, what happens is the scrutinizer will understand that yes, this person is having inclination towards research, or his experiences have led to certain outcomes. So that helps you secure an admission in PhD. That definitely helps. Even during interviews, when you are interviewed for the PhD program, then you can talk about your research experiences, which has happened to me. So it's a good thing actually. So yeah, these were some of my personal experiences, why I preferred PhD. And in case you want to do PhD, what factors you need to consider. Another thing, like if you are sure that you want to go for PhD after MS, after your undergraduate study, then what happens is, I'll say, try to bypass the MS program and directly get into the PhD program if you are sure, because it also saves a lot of money, right? So it saves you another a year or two, and then it's more financially viable if you are sure that you want to go into research. That's what is my outlook.
Great, really great. If Ishan could add something to it, like because
Sure.
you're in MS.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So when I was deciding, I think what I feel is the MS is more of a professional course which caters to the industry, whereas PhD is some of a scientific, as Abhiroop mentioned, it's much more research based and caters to the scientific community. So for me, as I was switching tracks and figuring out what my next steps would be in the software field, so I wanted to broaden my breadth of the knowledge of the computer science field. So for me, a structured program where I can learn through the coursework of the MS program would be more beneficial in my next steps. And anyway, I wanted to go into the industry field after completing my master's program, so I chose MS. But as Abhiroop mentioned, that even if you go for an MS program, if you really like that field and if you have done good research with the professors over there, you can convert that into a PhD program in the future as well. But for me, I was not much into the research field, and I just wanted to gain experiences and gain much more broader understanding of the field and learn through the assignments and the coursework we have here, and then apply that in my career moving ahead. So for me, the MS program worked much better. And I think if you want to do research, there are opportunities for research in the MS program as well, and which can be also converted into the PhD moving forward.
Great, that's really good to know. There's definitely something all the viewers here will keep in mind when they're deciding. So if Arnav has nothing to add to it, we can move on.
I think Abhiroop and Ishan addressed it very well.
Yeah.
So great, moving ahead. Can you guys let us know when is the right time to begin with the application process? Like any important deadlines or points one must keep in mind while doing so? Ishan, we can start with you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, most of the deadlines start at end of or middle of December and goes about till February. So I would say take the first half of your year in finishing up all your GRE, TOEFL, and taking all those exams and getting all your documents ready, and then move towards finalizing and shortlisting in universities and doing a well-rounded research on what universities work for you. Research about the coursework offered there, what the program offers you, what's the faculty over there, and reach out to as many alumni as you can in your dream university so that you can get all the information before you make the decision. And then also for your letters of recommendation, shortlist your recommenders earlier, and as Arnav mentioned, find the recommenders that you have worked very closely and that can vouch for you, because a good LOR really boosts your application. So finish that up first, and then take the last month and a half to just finalizing your recipe and writing a good narrative which can help you in convincing the admission committee to get an admit. So around at October, start writing your first draft and reach out to the guidance of how to modify it. But please don't copy anybody's SOP, because that's considered plagiarism and that would not sit well with the admission committee. But obviously reach out for guidance on how to modify and how to improve those. And then eventually submit well before the deadline so that you can have enough buffer for any unforeseen circumstances, and then track the deadlines closely. And generally each application along with SOP and LOR, you have to fill some other forms as well. So keep in track of what those are and the deadlines as well. So starting with August should be enough. I mean, GRE you can do before as well. I did my GRE way before my application. But the actual application process generally starts around September, and you start preparing for that around that, and then eventually, depending on the deadline, submit those.
Great. Arnav, would you like to add something to it for the PhD?
For the PhD, I think the whole application procedure is the same. So I think when I applied, I was not very confident that I'll get into like a PhD program. So I had applied to 6 or 7 colleges for masters, and then 2 or 3 colleges for PhD, and then I got into a PhD program luckily, so I chose that. But the application process is entirely the same, and you don't need to provide any other things for a PhD admit. So, and most of the like a lot of the programs in chemical engineering, what I've found is do not have like a research master's. They have like either a 1-year professional master's or a direct PhD. So I did not know about the direct PhD either. But when I started researching universities and applying, I saw that a lot of them have just PhD programs. So the application procedure is entirely the same.
Well, Abhiroop, would you like to add something?
Just to add regarding Yale, it's a similar process that there is no program specifically designed for masters in electrical engineering. So there might be that 1-year masters which Arnav is talking about, that professional masters program. Else you directly get into the PhD program, and eventually you get a master's degree when you complete your PhD. So this is
That's
the procedure. And even I did not know when I was applying during my 4th year to these colleges that I can directly opt for a PhD program and need not apply for a master's. So most of the universities which I selected, I applied for a master's program, and in 3 colleges specifically, I applied for PhD. And how did that happen? I'll just tell you briefly. So what I did was I mailed professors, relevant professors initially, and when I got a reply from them, then I had applied to those particular universities for a PhD program, actually. And from whichever universities I did not get any reply from the concerned professor, there I applied for the master's program. So what happens is, when you submit your application, then you can initiate a discussion with the professor if you get a reply earlier, and that helps in your recruitment process, I believe. So therefore, I followed this approach, and it somehow worked for me. Yeah. So if you are sure that you want to have research experience in the form of PhD, I'll advise mail those particular professors before submitting your application. And if you can build a conversation, then it's good for your application, actually.
Great. Thank you for sharing your advice with us. It will surely help in easing out the application process. Moving ahead.
So next, let us discuss the process of university selection. I know Ishan and you guys have already told us some things about it, but just to be clear about all of it once more, how many safe universities must one consider? What factors do you take into account? Like, do you look at the location of the university? Do you look at what labs are there? What professors? And, overall, we just love to have your thoughts. The floor is open to all of you. Maybe Arnav can start. Others can pitch in.
So I think I applied to like 2 or 3 safe universities, so there was this website, I don't know whether it's still there, it's called Yocket or something. So they gave like some basic information about whether it's safe or not or something. And then there's this Reddit-like thread called Grad Cafe. So I found that really helpful. So they, once people got admits, they posted their admit and all the information about their application. So that helped me choose safe universities. So I think eventually so I'd applied to like 2 safe universities for MS. One was Colorado School of Mines, and I got rejected from there. And the other was Texas A&M, and I got acceptance from there. So maybe my example is not completely correct or something to follow because I got rejected from a safe university too. But yeah, just the reputation and like online threads about typical admits, you can basically find out which ones would be safe for you, I think.
Great, Ishan, if you want to add to it.
Sure. I mean, I think the entire process is very subjective. So defining a safe and a medium university is these are all just heuristics and can't work for all of the folks. Like Arnav, I did not get admits from my safe university. But I got admit from Georgia Tech, so you never know what worked for and what the admission committee is looking for. But overall, I would say just to maximize your chances, look, especially for the MS, look for the funding opportunities as well, because there are private universities that don't have that much funding available. So see how much finances plays an important role in your application. So research that as well. And apart from that, the location, and especially where your alumni are going, as Arnav mentioned, it gives a strong boost, because that university already has a precedence of admitting and having seen students excelling in their graduate program from that university. So that definitely helps. And then get a mix of safe. I mean, what the online sites talk about the safe, the medium, and the ambitious. But yeah, definitely reach out to all the folks over there and see. Depending on what your constraints are, it may be financial, it may be some universities look for more research oriented, and some universities look for more structured professional courses. So see what is your goal in it, and then accordingly shortlist the universities. But give a good mix so that you maximize your chances.
Great. And Abhiroop, what about you? Except from applying to Yale, which other universities did you consider?
I considered a few European universities also. As I mentioned, that wherever I didn't get a reply from the prof, I applied to that university for an MS program, actually. So from an economical point of view, I believe Europe is a bit better off for MS, because there you can secure research opportunities also. Earlier I have worked in Germany also, so I know what's happening there. The research quality is good, the quality of research as well as the working environment, everything. And I've seen it's a little bit economically more convenient for the concerned person to have his or her MS degree from a European college. So what I'll suggest is also consider good European universities while applying, not only the universities in the US. If you are targeting MS. For PhD, typically the PhD programs are funded. Ivy League colleges like ours, they offer quite a decent stipend. So there is no issue you face with the money here. But the thing is that yes, but there is a there are less chances of securing a PhD just after bachelor's, because there are many prospective candidates who have master's degree who are in line. Yeah, and more research experience or more job experience in terms of work, etc. So yeah, so it's always better to target colleges which offer you scholarships for a master's degree, just if you are just applying after your undergraduate program. And that's in that sense, Europe is, I think, a viable option.
Yeah, that's really great to know. So we'll carry on with the next topic.
Arnav, I would like to ask our next question to you. Since you have worked for a few years before going for a PhD degree, right? So would you like to share what was your thought process behind that? Like what was going on in your mind at that time and how you went on to make the decision?
I have not actually worked before going for the PhD. I went right after BITS. I think Ishan has worked before.
Yeah. I worked, yeah.
Okay.
Should I answer that question?
Yes,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Issues.
For me, I would
Also
say,
sorry for
okay.
Yeah,
So for
sure,
me,
go
I was just figuring out what I wanted to do next. I to be honest, like I was taking CAT while applying for MS, so I was just trying to. It could have ended any either of the ways. But for me, the experience as a software engineer at least made me ensure that I am not fit for a mechanical domains, and I'm more interested in the CS field as compared to the mechanical one, and that may be also because I didn't do much in my undergrad in the mechanical field. So for me, I was just figuring out between MBA and MS. But luckily for me, I got the admit in the university I was looking for, and they had a very good CS program. So that for me was a good starting point to see if I want to learn more in this field, and this would be a good program where I can get the entire breadth of the knowledge of the CS field, and then I can have the initial skills developed through that rigorous program, and then I can convert that into an actual professional career at a much bigger scale than the one which I was working at currently. So in order to get to the next level, I thought for me an MS in CS would work really well.
Yeah, that's really great to know.
Yeah.
I'm in mechanical too, and I really hope to get into CS. So it's
So yeah,
really essential to me.
if you're sure, I mean, I was not sure in my undergrad. So if you're sure for now, you can start working at
Yeah,
it
no,
from now.
exactly my point. I'm thinking I'll give it a
Yeah.
try for 4 years and then I'll see what
Yeah.
comes up. And there are many like me
That's-
over here who've been admitted to chemical, mechanical, electrical, but want to pursue CS.
Right.
So it's great for all
Sure,
of us to know.
So I think the field of CS has so many opportunities. It's very
Yeah.
accepting of all the
It's pretty
diverse
alluring.
experiences.
Right.
So I would say just give your best shot, and you would have the necessary success that you need.
Yeah. So
I
moving
just bring my
on.
charger, so I'll just mute myself.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
So moving on, let us discuss the importance of JRE and TOEFL. Before Arnav has definitely told us that it's more of a filter to do with, and but still to gain some more insight on it, on how to prepare for GRE. What books did you use? Did you have study groups? Like, if you guys could just elaborate on that, and Abhiroop could join in too about the subject-specific GREs which you guys might have given.
Subject-specific GREs, I think we didn't quite apply for, right? It was a general GRE test.
Yeah, subject specific is only for physics. So if you're not doing physics PhD, then I don't think you need to do the physics GRE.
Fine.
So for GRE, I think the mathematics is not very difficult. So you can just practice from one of the many books. I forget the names. And for English, I think I had there was some app which like gives a list of words or something, which you can like
a word of it.
Yeah, just
Word
like
of the day thing.
just swipe your mobile, look at those words once a day, and then you should be good to give the GRE with like 1 to 2 months of just every other day just doing like 1 or 2 hours of practice. I think it's not as difficult as any BITS exam or anything. It's pretty easy. Yeah.
So same thing, Ishan, if you didn't hear the topic, we're discussing about the importance of GRE and TOEFL. Basically, how much do you need to put in to prepare for it, etc. So you could have your views too.
Sure. I mean, as Arnav mentioned, it's just a qualifier. I don't think even a perfect GRE score would guarantee an admit in any of the universities over here, and it's just for the filtering. If you have a bad GRE score, it might go against you, but a good GRE score doesn't get you a long way. Regarding preparations, it's very easy as compared to the ones that we have gone through in our high school and other in our entrance examinations. So as maths is pretty much very easy, and just giving a couple of practice tests would be sufficient to just get an idea of what you have. And depending upon your verbal skills, you would have to. It depends on how much you already have the skills. There are a bunch of lists you can learn to start. Upgrading your vocabulary to start with, and then using it in the test using practice. But I won't say it's more than a month's effort. For any BITS student, it won't take much more than that. I mean, I did it in like 3 to 4 weeks, so that is more than sufficient for anybody.
Abhiroop, do you want to add anything to it about your GRE prep? How much effort were you putting in? Because
I religiously prepared for 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So if you do that, then I think there is no issue. And as Ishan just mentioned, that a bad GRE score might make a difference, but if you have a decent GRE score, you are through. Like, it's okay. It's not a big issue. Not a big. It doesn't give a big impetus to your application. But a bad GRE score definitely helps the selection committee to reject your application. Okay. One thing is that, so yeah, you need to have a decent score above 320 in GRE, general test. And yeah, as Arnav had also mentioned, the math is very simple. You need to put, there are many apps available like Magoosh, and there is a Baron's word series or something like that. You can refer to that. You can have a list of words. You can go through that list before your exam, and yeah, that helps in your preparation. Apart from that, TOEFL is very it's pretty simple. You need not prepare, you just go through the pattern ones and go and give the exam. That's all. And yeah, the ideal timeline is like, if you are generally the application deadlines are in December, so try to get GRE and TOEFL done by August, and maximum by September. Don't go beyond that. Like, try to get done with these things by August.
Great, that's definitely something to make a note of. It was pretty interesting to know the things we need to consider while we're preparing, and especially the app names and the tips you guys have given. We'll surely keep that in mind. So
Yeah,
we
thanks.
can move on now.
Coming back, I want to ask you that how much does one's CGPA affect his or her chances of getting into their dream university? Like Arnav has already mentioned that a good CG would boost your chances of going into your dream university. I would love if Abhiroop, you can add it to it.
CG for a PhD, if you apply for a PhD, CG will definitely play a good role. So if you have a good amount of work experience, then 8.5 plus CG is decent enough. If your profile lacks a bit of research experience, then you need to have some good amount of CG that can support your application, basically around 9.3 plus or so. So this is what I feel. And yeah, so I had internship experiences and which kind of showed that I am inclined towards research. So that gives an impetus to your application. Otherwise, you need to have a very good CG at the end of your course so that you can get through and secure an admission.
Ishan, would you like to add to it?
Sure. I would say, yeah, a strong CGPA definitely helps. It gives, I mean, the admission committee notices and gives a good first impression. But it depends on how much can you offset it with your other experiences, especially for an MS program. If you have a slow CG, but you have shown that you are excelling well in other projects or in doing other extra work apart from the regular coursework, that shows that you are going above and beyond and doing something to enhance your skills and improve yourself. So that helps in building a strong narrative. But there are some universities that look for CGPA and try to filter from them, but there are others that look at the complete profile. So it depends on what you're applying for and what's their criteria. But generally, most of the universities look for a holistic profile and see how can you fit well into the graduate program and can you perform well over there and excel over there. So, but yeah, if you have a good CGPA, that's a good starting point to build a strong application. But don't be sad if you don't have, and because you have enough time to offset them with other experiences and build overall a strong profile and show that you will do well in the next program, even if you didn't do well in the current one.
Great. Arnav, would you like to add something? Like you have already mentioned, a good CGPA is necessary, but
Yeah, I think in my case it helped because I did not, before my application, I did not have research internship or anything else. So my main point was just CGPA, I think. But yeah, I know like a few people who have like 8 point something CGPAs who have successfully gone into PhD programs. So it might be much more difficult, but yeah, it is possible.
Great.
For masters, I think it's much easier, I think, with a little lower CGPA.
Great. That will surely help in boosting the confidence of people who have low CG. Cool. Moving ahead.
Yeah, so this next topic is going to be a little derivative of the CG one, but it's more to do with the importance of all the projects you did. Which clubs were you a part of? How did the projects you did, in not just adding to your CV, how did it help you to develop those soft skills and other requirements for admissions to these great universities? Abhiroop, you could start, and Ishan and
So-
you could mention.
Yeah. So regarding projects, in my case, in BITS, I did 2 SOPs, or I think 1 SOP and 1 top, maybe. Yeah. And in Pilani campus, there is a very good VLSI. You can get a very good VLSI experience out here in electronics. So that quite helped me to gain certain skills required for higher study or doing research, or that might also be needed in your higher studies, and that we get to know even during our undergraduate studies itself. So we get a good amount of lab exposure during our undergraduate studies in Pilani campus, and specifically in the VLSI field. Apart from that, I did a project under a prof, and it had an outcome in the form of a paper. In Germany, I had done 2 research internships, one in RWTH Aachen and one in TU Dresden. One in Aachen was sponsored by the DAD fellowship, and in TU Dresden I did my bachelor's thesis. So both of these experiences also had output in terms of papers, and that kind of helped build my profile. During my applications, all these papers were under review, but I still had something to talk with the professor regarding my research experiences and everything, and that kind of helped me convince the concerned person that yes, I am inclined towards research. Yeah, so this is what my research experiences were.
Great. So maybe Ishan could add to it.
For me, in BITS, I did not do any much research or projects. I did 1 reading course and 1 computer-oriented project in my 4th year, but they were mostly to boost my CG and to build rapport with the professor so that I can have a good LORs. But most of my SOPs revolved around the work that I did in my job, because I wanted to focus on the skills that I learned in the software domain, and then how will that translate in the graduate program. But definitely the entire the BITS has a rigorous program, so it prepares you for the things moving ahead. And if you get opportunities, I did not envision myself doing an MSCS when I was in BITS, so I did not work on that track. But if you guys have already decided on doing that, then you could just start working from now instead of waiting till the time I waited for. So, but for me, I did not do much research in BITS. I was just chilling. So I'm not sure I'll be the good person to answer that.
No, but definitely a good command on the computer science skills will help us later, right? If you're
Yeah,
trying to
definitely.
branch out.
Yeah,
And as I said, you also
definitely.
did
I mean,
project over there.
yeah, definitely. I mean, the coursework here is pretty rigorous. So, and you would get like graduate level courses on the first semester itself. So, if you want to cope with them, it's better to start out early so that you don't feel overwhelmed over here. So that could, you just, I mean, in general in life as well, if you keep learning, that will help you a long way. So that should not never stop.
Amazing. And what about you, Arnav? What research work, what clubs and projects were you a part of?
So in BITS, I just did one LOP, which was like something to do with a microfluidic device for detecting heavy metals. But that was like, I don't think. So after my application, it resulted in some minor conference publication. But apart from that, one other thing I would like to mention is like people here, I think also look for like, so at Purdue, during the application, there was like a diversity statement or something that you had to write, or volunteer experience. So I think being part of Abhiroop helped me write, like I was involved with this volunteer work, which helped like people from underprivileged backgrounds, I would say. So I think having something like that in your SOP is also pretty useful, I would say. So being part of clubs or doing something involved in volunteering or diversity to just have so that you can write it as part of your statement is also beneficial, apart from all the research activities that Abhiroop and Ishan spoke about.
Great, that's really amazing to know. We can move on to the next topic of discussion now.
Coming back to our discussion, could you tell us like how many LORs from professor should one have at the time of application, and also how can we get an LOR from a respective professor? Ishan, would you like to start with this?
Yeah, sure. Generally, I mean, for MS, most of the applications have at least 3 LORs, so that is, I think, sufficient enough. It could be a mix of your academic LORs or professional LORs. So in my case, since I was working for 3 years and I wanted to showcase those skills, I got my LOR from my manager and from the technical expert on my team, so that I can show that I worked well in the professional setting, and I had and from the technical expert, he could vouch for my fundamental knowledge, and I could perform well in my job. And then the COP that I did in my undergraduate, it generally helps build a rapport, and I would suggest keep in touch with all your profs so that when the time of LOR comes, they are there to help you. And generally, most of the profs are very busy, and a lot of students ask for LOR, so keep in advance and stay in touch so that at the time they don't feel overwhelmed in giving an LOR just for the sake of it. So these projects and projects under them are doing. I did my TA, lab TA in my 4th year, so those helped in building connections with the profs and staying in touch with them. So once the time came of my application, because it was already 3 years since I had graduated, so that those interactions and those projects really helped in scoring an LOR from them.
Abhiroop, would you like to add to it?
I think Ishan has already covered all the aspects. The same thing I would also say, that build connections with your prof that you can do by doing TA ships. I had a TA ship also during my 3rd year. I was a TA for a 2nd year course. So that helped build the connection initially. Then from there onwards, I took on, I worked on certain projects with professors in BITS, and yeah, that helps to build connection. And in the end, when you have sufficient LORs, and you should have sufficient time to secure all the LORs. You don't go at the last moment and say, sir, tomorrow the application deadline, tomorrow is the application deadline, kindly send me an LOR. So that doesn't work. In that case, don't ask for the LOR. So have some sufficient time in hand before asking for an LOR. And yeah, that will help. So that's why I'm saying that try to get rid of all these things by September, October itself, because December is generally the deadline. So try to get rid of everything and then focus on your SOP, your CV, your diversity statement, your personal statement, etc. Whatever is there in the application, focus on that more. Try to make amendments, try to make those things more intriguing, coherent, etc. But complete your GRE, TOEFL, LOR, all these things by September, October maximum.
Great. Arnav, would you like to share some of your views?
I think Abhiroop addressed it very well. I think, just make sure you talk to the professors like 1 or 2 months in advance. Just tell them where you're applying and what you want to do or what you think you want to do, and talk to professors 1 to 2 months in advance, and just make sure they know the deadlines, and if they have trouble, you can also help them with the system where they submit the LOR, or just help them too, rather than just telling them submit the LOR. Tell them more about yourself so that they can write something more specific. Tell them what you want to apply for and what you want to do, so that it's more centered on you rather than very generic.
Great. Another thing which we all really want to know about is let's say we've been working with a prof who has a really good, he's really famous and he's really worked on great projects, but we do not know him as well. On the other hand, we have a prof we've worked with for a long time, but he might not be as renowned as the other one. So in this case, while considering which prof to choose for an LOR, if we have to, what's the ideal way to go?
It's a tough question, I think, but
we just want your views on it.
If a top professor who's really good in his field knows, writes the LOR for you, I think that will certainly have value, because the person reading the LOR will probably know the name of that professor, and then he will trust that professor to write an LOR for a person who he recommends. So I think that would help. But the other thing is you can always submit 4 LORs. So I don't think there's a maximum. So I would choose both if you have to make such a difference.
Fine. So ideally, how many LORs should we really aim for?
So I submitted 3, which was the minimum. But if you can get more LORs which actually add value, then I think I would recommend submitting more. But if it's just many LORs with no content, then I don't think it's useful.
If the prof vouches for you and can build into the story that you want to show in your entire application, then it works. But if it's very generic and it's just there for the sake of it, it might work against you. So definitely take LORs from the ones that you have worked closely with and then can vouch for you well and write good LORs for you. But as Arnav mentioned, if it's a very good prof, then you can add that as your 4th LOR. But and if a very well-renowned prof has accepted your LOR, then I'm assuming that he will write not a generic one, and at least a decent one, so that can boost your application for sure.
Abhiroop, what are your thoughts on this?
Regarding LOR, so I think Ishan and Arnav have addressed it very well. I don't have anything else to comment on. I think you need to consider these aspects when you look for profs who are willing to give you an LOR. One thing I just recalled regarding LOR. So it's not always the BITS profs from where you secure LOR. So it may be from the companies wherein you are working, the managers over there, in case of Ishan, as he mentioned. Or in my case, it was my German professor with whom I worked during my summer internship. So in that case, what will happen is, even though the duration is not too big, a summer internship is generally for 3 months, but try to interact with that professor as much as possible. Try to give presentations, try to explain your research ideas to him, So what will happen is within that short period of time also he'll have a fair idea of what's your thought process or how well you have done your research, and then he can draft a very good LOR for you. So keep that in mind when you visit a foreign university or any university rather in India also for an internship. Then try to interact with the profs as much as possible so that it later helps you with your LOR application.
Great. Thank you for your suggestions. Moving ahead.
Yeah, so we'll discuss the COP point now.
For the admission process, are there some more important things need to be added to the SOP for application, like besides those you have mentioned earlier? Some key points to be kept in mind.
What are they exactly looking for? Does it have to be more of your story, or does it have to be, a ton of mistakes and then a realization moment or something like that? How exactly did you guys plan out your SOPs?
So for me, I think I feel that it's more of building a strong narrative and a strong story, but it should be backed with concrete experiences, and it should not be very shallow and not just there for the sake of it. So when I started writing the SOP, and I thought about what I am interested in and why, and how will my current profile or my current experiences till now help me in excelling in a graduate program, and what are my future goals, and how will this program help me in achieving that. So I wanted to base on that I had already had a very rigorous academic program, which helped me prepare for a strong graduate program here in the US. And at the same time, I have varied experiences which was not in my domain. And now that I want to take advantage of that, so I built my story around that. I am prepared for a strong academic program, but I'm also have these experiences, so I wanted to match those together, and then use those both as my experiences till now to convince the committee that I will excel in the graduate program over there, and build a story around it. And then luckily that I got it. It should be very coherent, and it should be backed by concrete experiences through your projects or through your work in your job or through your interactions. So it should all come together, and it should be a very structured story where you are talking about all the things, and it should not be there should not be any empty statements which are not backed, and it should be well rounded so that the committee knows that you know what you're looking for and what you want to achieve from this program.
Abhiroop, would you like to add?
Abhiroop.
So one important point I just want to mention. There are two things in your application. One is CV, one is SOP. So your SOP must complement your CV. Your SOP should not be a repetition of what's there in your CV. It should complement your CV. So frame the SOP in a way that it is within 2 pages, around maybe 1,000 words, and it explains your journey in fashion. Along with that, what are your future goals, and how do you plan to achieve that given a chance of admission in this university, given a chance to work with so and so professor? How do you plan to accomplish your goals? So those things need to be clearly stated in your SOP in a very coherent fashion. Again, I'm saying that. And your work experience should be elaborated, but yes, don't just repeat what's there in your CV. That's what I want to make clear, that clarify that you should not just, your SOP should not just be the repetition of your CV. Then it doesn't make sense. It should always complement your CV.
Arnav, your views on it?
The only thing I would like to add is you can always make a master SOP and then just tailor it a bit for different universities, and you can also do something that the university, not only that you're a good fit for the university, but you should always show like the university is also a good fit for you. For example, you made a master SOP or something, and then you write you're interested in this field, but when you submit it, the university you submitted to does not work in that field. It's like reject because that university doesn't have those facilities. So make sure all those minor things are like aligned. If you could, if you've written an email to any professor, then you can just say you're interested in that professor's group or something like that. Yeah, just other than that, I think Ishan and Abhiroop addressed it very well.
Great. So, as Abhiroop just said, that your SOP is supposed to complement your CV. Moving on from there, what we want to know is what are the key little things we need to keep in mind while formatting our CV, while thinking of what things should we add to it, basically, regarding projects, regarding all your extracurriculars, to add to it, so that our SOP and CV, they go well together, and it definitely tips the scales in our favor. So, Sean, you could start.
Yeah, sure. I would say like first get a blob of all the work that you have done that you want to put in the CV, and then try to start formatting it, because you can get as much content as you want, and then try to tailor it and fit it in the format that the CV requires, and then try to show the impact of the projects the impact that the projects created, because that gives a tangible aspect to the project, and it's not very generic enough, and it shows that what you're working on generated impact. And then in my case, apart from the projects that I did, I also mentioned the additional coursework that I did online, which showed that I was working outside also to uplift my profile and to learn new skills. So I mentioned that. And then if you have done any additional things like Abhigyan and other clubs, that could work well to give a complete profile. And as I mentioned, that there is a diversity statement as well, so that would complement the diversity statement as well. So list down all the impactful projects that you did, and just tailor it around and complement that with the SOP.
Great. So now we'll move on to the next topic. What about funding and scholarship? Maybe you could let us know something more about that.
A brief idea about it, the process and all.
I think PhDs are generally funded. Yeah, Arnav, you can start with the PhD and I can do the master's.
So for the PhD, it's usually fully funded, so you don't need to pay anything. The university gives you money to for living expenses, so it's very convenient that way. And you're assured an income throughout your PhD as long as you meet the requirements. So yeah, for MS, I think it's different, and Ishan can tell you better. But from what I know, it's just you go there and then you look for TAs or RAs, and it depends on department funding or the professor funding.
Yeah. For MS, I think there is no out of the bat any funding opportunities. When you receive an admit, it's all on you if you want to get a funding or not. Generally, from the India itself, it's very difficult to find one, because most of the professors are very busy and won't reply to funding opportunities as such, and they right now don't know what your profile is and how are you interacting with them, and are you part of the program or not. So once you come here, at least in Georgia Tech, it had good TA and RA opportunities. There are other private universities which might not have those. So research well before you shortlist your universities if finance is a constraint. So once you come here, you can either look. There are some advertised RA opportunities, research assistant opportunities in the labs. And so if your experience is a good fit with them, there would be interviews for that, and you can apply for those. There are then once you could look for TA opportunities in undergraduate courses, and that could be one way to secure some funding. Or once you complete one semester, the courses that you do during your first semester, generally the courses, at least in Georgia Tech, go in both semesters. So with the prof that you did your course in the first fall semester, for example, you can reach out to them, have good interactions with them, and then you can do the TA for the next semester for the same course. But as I said, that it is highly competitive and it's not as easy as in PhD funding because there is no guarantee in it. So you have to work extra to secure those. And once you, and I mean, it's up to you. No one would come and give you funding for that. So it's up to you how much you want to work for that. So secure some secure some your financially through loans once you come here, and once you get your funding, those could be offsetted with well. So yeah, that's about it. But it's up to you in the end. But there are universities that don't have funding, so that would be an additional financial burden. So definitely research well before you shortlist universities.
Abhiroop, would you like to add on?
In my case also, it's since it's a PhD program, it's a completely sponsored program, and we received decent stipends, so it's easy to sustain ourselves. And what I have learned from my peers is that in MS, as Ishan has just mentioned, when you secure the admission, then you don't have any guarantee of receiving funding. Most of the times, around 95% of the time, you don't get any funding for MS programs. Specifically in the US, in Europe, there is still scope for funding. I mentioned earlier also, that is why for MS, European universities can be a viable option. There are very good universities in Germany, in Switzerland. So you can look into their courses, research work, everything before you start applying to colleges. And I think in European universities, GRE is not mandatory. In certain these days, many have made GRE compulsory, GRE scores compulsory, but there are universities who don't want to have GRE scores. TOEFL or IELTS is good for them. So you might want to look at those universities also, and they have the teaching and research assistantships available also in plenty. But what I found in TU Dresden was a BITSian senior of ours. He was doing his master's in TU Dresden along with a research assistantship in our lab where I did my thesis. So he could easily sustain himself in Europe, even cover that stipend could cover his tuition fees also. So yeah, so you might want to look at European universities when you start applying to colleges in this regard, specifically for MS.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Moving ahead.
Yeah, so now let us just discuss about your grad school interviews. Did you have to sit through any? And especially Abhiroop, since it's all online now. Did you have to go through an online grad school interview to get admitted?
Grad school interviews are online because they are always online, even before the pandemic.
Great.
So when I had my interview, the pandemic did not start. So I had my interview we submit the applications by December 15, and I had my first interview in the early week of January. Then another interview I had in mid-January, and those happened when I was working in Dresden for my undergraduate thesis. So yeah, interviews are like they ask you to prepare presentations where you explain what you have done so far, what your research interests are, and how it aligns with the concerned professors' research work, etc. And you can we had a 1 hour or around 1.5 hours long discussion. And then he can give you a fair idea whether you are through or not during that interview itself. So that was one format. In others, they asked us about what current work we are doing. So I was working in Dresden, so I explained my research project over there. And then like this, you can initiate the conversation. These are just examples I'm giving you. So yeah, these were my experiences with the interviews. In some interviews, they might even have a set of questions. So they want to test your knowledge. So they will come up with a set of questions, and you might have to answer those questions in a very intuitive manner. They won't ask you to do calculations on paper and give the answers. You need to do some kind of intuitive analysis. Intuitive analysis, they want to, by intuitive analysis, they want to check how well versed you are with your field, actually. So that is one thing. So these were my experiences with the interviews.
Any of you would like to add to it?
So for my program, we did not have any interviews. So I technically did not do any interviews and still got in. So I think it's university dependent as well. So yeah, I think all the suggestions and tips Abhiroop gave would be good.
Great. Ishan, what about you? Any interview you had to go through?
No, I don't think master's MS programs have interviews as such. So it's mostly what you write in your SOP and in your application is enough for them to decide. So work more extra hard on that. So yeah, but I don't think MS has any grad interviews as such. Not that I have heard of, but please do your own research. Yeah.
Well, so that's really great. We are all really grateful to all of you to have walked us through your journeys tonight. It has been clearly established today that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Now, I suppose we'll move on to the question and answer segment of this talk. We will try to accommodate as many questions as possible. A reminder to all the viewers that the Q&A option is different from the chat option, and the speakers won't be able to answer a question that has been put up in the chat even if they want to. Kindly keep that in mind. So with that, we'll start. So yeah, the first question is for Arnav. Could you briefly tell us about the process for building a good profile for MS in chemical or material science and engineering? Seeing that you apply to a few MS universities as well.
I think it's like the same for all fields, but if for chemical engineering specific, I would say I guess do SOPs or LOPs or thesis in the field instead of going to some other field. So it's not anything new. Just follow all the tips. And chemical engineering also is like super broad. So there's like the traditional processes like distillation, all the refinery, petroleum. Then there's biochemical engineering, which is fermentation and such. And then there's material science. So in our, just for example, of what type of research goes on at universities here in the chemical engineering department. So we have a lot of catalysis work, which is mostly like chemistry oriented. Then there's biotechnology work, such as working with mammalian cells, making doing genetic engineering. That's also chemical engineering. That's some of the things I do. There's also biomaterials like implants and stuff, which chemical engineering people work on. Then other fields are computational, like MD simulations and all those simulations. Those are also part of chemical engineering. People here also work on solar panels and that technology. So one thing is that chemical engineers have a very wide scope, and the other big field is pharmaceuticals, which is really hot now. So so just probably know that chemical engineering is not just the separation processes class that you take. It's much more wide and very diverse. And I realized that when I came here. But other than that, for profiles, I think, just try to work in the field if you want to do chemical engineering research.
Great. So, moving on to our next question. It's directed to you, Ishan, and it's come up really many times now. But just to be a little more clear on it, you said how you started doing a little computer-related projects in your fourth year, and then you had a period where you were doing your job. So, what we really want to know is that you were sort of transitioning from the mechanical engineering background to the computer science background, and there had to be something which the university, Georgia Tech, would have seen in you to have actually accepted you. Was it your work experience? Was it some things you did in between that time? Be great if you could shed some light on that.
Sure. Yeah. As I mentioned, I did not plan it very well. So I did not know in my undergrad that I had to do an MS in CS. So I just so once I graduated and I was lucky to start, because most of the mechanical people don't get a software job, especially in the mechanical field, because especially in India there are not many such opportunities. So I was lucky to get a job in Mumbai. So that was mostly building software products, but for the CAD domain, which is computer aided design and manufacturing. So that gave me the initial glimpse of the coding world or the software engineering world, but that was pretty much just doing it for a specific application and just doing C++ coding for an enterprise product. So I think for me, it was more about, I think definitely I had like 3 years of work experience, so I could show, and the projects over there were very diverse. So I could show that I could excel well in those projects, and those created impact for the company as well. So I highlighted those, and I was pretty sure in what I wanted to achieve from my graduate program as well. So I owned up that I right now didn't have any formal education in CS. So I wanted to take this opportunity to learn what I have till now and get to the next level through a rigorous program in the US. So I built my narrative around that I wanted to broaden my field and open up myself to new opportunities, because as you know that in CS also there are a lot of fields that I was not privy of, or I did not have experience because I was just working on one specific thing. So with the coursework over there, in the first semester itself in Georgia Tech, I had coursework in machine learning, computer vision, data analytics, and algorithms. So I could see myself learning much more over there. So I built that narrative in the SOP itself that I wanted to take this opportunity to enhance my skills and then backed with my experiences till now of how I can excel over there and convince them. So definitely for me, the work ex played the most major important role, and I could also leverage that I am coming from a strong undergraduate program in BITS as well, and which could convince them that I could excel even if I don't have studied those before in a much rigorous manner. I could excel in that in future.
Nice to know about your views. Moving ahead, a bit out of topic thing, but I would like to know in college how many clubs you were into and how that helped in your future life.
I mean, I was not part of any clubs, but I can see it helping in building the friends and the network. So that definitely helps. But I would say even without the clubs, I've made some really great friends over the 4 years. And I would say that the BITS alumni network is really helpful. So if you reach out to anybody, they might be busy and you might not get response like immediately, but eventually people would see whatever help anybody is looking for. So leverage that. And I think the most, it would eventually, the clubs also would help you become a more well-rounded person and could help you in the networking over here as well, and improve your communication skills and management skills. So that could help if you are into that. I was not in my undergrad, I was not much interested in that, so I did not pursue it, but I could see it helping other folks for sure.
Arnav, would you like to add on it?
So I was part of just Abhiroop, so it helped me know more people, so that's always good. And especially later on, if you know more people, then you have more connections, as Ishan said. And then it was also very a good time, helping people learn English and mathematics. So yeah, apart from that, the main the main point is just building networks. If you look at it from a professional perspective, if you know more people, then later on you have more connections which can help you with like jobs or other things, or you can also help them later. So yeah.
Great. So I
Thanks.
think we'll just take 2 or 3 more questions from the chat. So
Yeah.
one of them is, I think it's towards Ishan. How is the scope of software engineering, CAE, CAD in India and abroad? I mean, you've worked in that field, so
I had really good fun working there because it was like building cores of algorithms for the CAD field, and we have these generic CAD courses in BITS, but if you start coding it in actual enterprise products, it's very nice. I would say the biggest companies in India would be ANSYS, I guess, ANSYS and PTC, and I think there's one more, Dassault Systems. We used to partner with our company used to partner with Dassault Systems, and we used to work with them. But I have not researched it in the US because I just wanted to start with a broad field and not specifically work in the CAD field in the US as well. So just open to all the opportunities. So I would not say I have, but in India there are a few companies that if you want to try, that would happily take BITS students. So yeah, if you want to go through, look for people working there, and then I'm not sure how the placements are working if these companies come to the campus, but you can work outside your connections to find the suitable roles.
great. And also, I guess just one last question. It's open to all. Does doing a summer internship after the 3rd year add to your profile with respect to MS or PhD applications?
I mean, it would
Abhiroop, you can
definitely, Abhiroop, you can start.
It definitely helps in building your profile. There is no doubt. Any research experience would definitely help. So yeah, in that way, if you have secured a good research internship or maybe an industrial internship also, that also adds to your experience. Many people from our batch have worked in Micron, Texas Instruments. That's also an experience which adds to your application. So anything is fine. Even if you don't secure an internship in 3rd year, no problem. You have the thesis to look forward to. You can go for a thesis that adds to your experience. Then you do in what you can do is, so there is an option for thesis in 4.1 and another in 4.2, right? So in that, if you don't have a summer internship, go for a thesis in 4.1. Okay, so that by the end of the thesis, by the application deadline, when the application during that time, you can write about your experiences in the concerned lab wherein you have done your thesis, and that adds to your application. So plan your thesis in 4.1 in that case if you don't have a summer internship. I did it in 4.2 because I already had the summer internship. And what I did was during my interviews, I could talk about what current work I'm associated in during my thesis. So yeah, so that's the thing.
Great. So with this, we come to the end of our BITS2MS PhD talk session. Thank you all for sharing your journeys. It surely tips the scales in favor of the aspirants here with us today. We loved having all of you guys here.
Thank you all for attending this talk. We hope that it proved to be insightful and informative. The recording for the talk will be available on our YouTube page. Kindly subscribe to it and also join the Facebook group if you have any queries. Please fill up the feedback form that has been put up in the chat box. Your suggestions are indeed valuable to us. All the best to all of you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, everybody.
It was great talking to you.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Bye.